We need to record the whole thing.
Started recording, yeah. And actually, it says record up in the top of my screen.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah. Whoops!
Okay, we gotta start over.
Hey guys, this is Cassie with the family, and unfortunately, as you just heard, we were having some technical difficulties before the recording of this episode, which then led us, well, not us, me, unfortunately, to forget to record video, which is great for podcasting and not so much for our YouTube channel. I will be putting some pictures within the video as well as on the Family School of Thought Instagram, so you can check them out there. But unfortunately, this is going to be an audio-only episode. We hope you still like it. We hope you like and subscribe and continue to come listen to us every week. And as they say, on with the show. Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Hi guys. Welcome again to our weekly Family School of Thoughts. Here in Michigan, we've got, at least 8 inches of snow so far.
I think it said 10.
10. We got lots.
I think 8 to 10.
And the roads are really, really bad. I just got home.
That sucks.
Yeah, I'm sure it's 55 degrees and more.
No, it's cold here. It's 43 degrees.
Okay.
It was kind of gloomy today, so.
Oh boy, I need a sweater on. Right?
I do have a sweater on.
Okay, Jess, do you want to start us out with our fun fact?
So our fun fact, which I am pretty excited because it kind of goes with today's theme. So again, this is from Mental Floss and these facts calendar, but every tiger has a unique set of stripes that can be used to identify it, similar to humans with our fingerprints. So amazing fact for the day. Oh, I can't really say.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
So like no tiger stripes are the same kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does that tie into your topic this week?
Well, we can't do it yet.
No. So my topic this week is doppelgangers. So people who look the same. However, and I said last week that it wasn't really a story, but when I was doing my research, I kind of found some stories that kind of went with it. So, and one was a Maine story. Sorry, I just wanted to pause our Amazon Alexa so it wasn't going off while we were doing this. But, there is a little bit of a story in there, but I've always kind of been fascinated about the topic of doppelgangers, and so I thought it would be a fun thing to kind of discuss. We've had discussions about doppelgangers in our family multiple times. Cassie is our doppelganger, for Megan Trainor. Can't even say her name right.
I don't really see it anymore. Like I
don't either.
I don't see it like
pictures, and I was like, I don't see it anymore.
I think when we were both blonde, we really did look a lot alike.
I was prepared for this. I would have had side-by-side pictures.
I think when we were both blonde, it was.
You don't much like her anymore.
No.
But you don't wear makeup like you used to wear.
No.
Well, okay, so let me pull up. I have some pictures to demonstrate, to share, but let me pull up a picture of Megan Trainor. So I got to do this real quick. So we'll slide through these. But, there we go.
Megan, there she is.
Or is it Megan Trainor? I don't know.
Wait, I'm trying to get the angle.
Yeah. So Cassie, Megan Trainor, who knows?
So, Cass, if you had makeup on that you used to always wear, you'd look just like.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true.
I think you stopped wearing makeup so people would stop calling you Megan.
Or it's because I don't work with the public anymore and I don't care.
I remember the time when you were working at the casino, and your mother and I went there to see you, but we couldn't talk to you because you were
busy.
Not a dealer, a cashier or whatever you were. But we went into the restaurant and we said to the waitress, we're like, because we could see you from the restaurant, like, hey, I think that's Megan Trainor. She goes, no, it's not. It's not. She goes, everybody thinks it's her, but it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is.
I got it quite
she's doing a movie role and she's just studying. She's like, no, it's not her. Everybody thinks it's her, but it's not. I'm like, Okay, I think it is though.
There was
And
a
then
show that
about
was like that, where it was like undercover
yes.
celebrities like doing just regular jobs. I remember like Britney Spears worked at like a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would come back about a half an hour later. She's like, okay, so you're Cassie's dad.
You know what? I'm surprised it took him that long because me and mom look very much alike. Like every time somebody sees mom, they're like, "Oh, that must be your mother." Like, yep.
Yeah.
It's
I just
not
remember too
odd.
because when Megan Trainor first came out, she had some YouTube videos of her playing her ukulele, and I remember showing Matt one of the videos, and he's like, "I didn't know Cassie could play the ukulele." I'm like, "That's not
No,
Cassie."
I can't.
Yes, it is. It's clearly Cassie.
that's Megan.
And
And he was totally freaked out.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
I'm when I worked at the paper, I remember people would always be like, "Is that your sister?" Like they were. It was everybody thought you looked like Megan Trainor or Megan Trainor looked like you. But I think the funniest part was when you dyed your hair red. So you're like,
Yes.
okay, nobody's gonna think.
Yeah.
And then she dyed her.
She dyed her red, and I was like, "Crap." Okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
do remember that.
Let's take a vote, everybody here. Next week, Cassie wears her makeup
Hmm.
and just see if she looks like Megan Trainor.
Yeah.
I'm wearing makeup today.
Well, you used to wear heavy eye makeup.
I know.
You're right. Yeah. Like the eyeliner and everything.
Right.
So
Okay.
obviously talked about doppelgangers in the past with our family, and mom, we always have thought you had a doppelganger in the town next to us,
Yeah, that's true.
just because you've had people say, "Oh, I just saw you in, at Meyer or something," and you're like, "I wasn't there," So there's always we've had these weird experiences, throughout our whole lives and everything. So I've always thought it was fascinating, but. So, doppelganger is a German word which literally translates to double walker. So, I thought it was kind of a interesting thing. I didn't really realize how deep it went, but it was a word that was coined in like the 18th century. But it's a unbiologically related look-alike or a double of a living person. But it gets a little mysterious and I guess kind of creepy-ish on that end, because back when these were first being documented, doppelgangers, the real like the real term for it is more for like an evil twin or like a evil spirit that looks like you. So it's more on the paranormal aspects of it, or on a paranormal, like level. It's a ghostly or paranormal phenomenon, presence kind of thing. So kind of digging into that, I ended up learning about this French woman, and she was a teacher in I want to say in her early 30s, that her name is Emily Segui. I think is how you say it. It's a French name, so may butcher that. But it's said to be she's got the eeriest case, but I think it was really like the first talked about kind of documented case of a doppelganger. Um, but the doppelganger sightings, they kind of date back, from what I can see, to like the 1600s even. So there are lots of stories. I don't know if they were just creepy ghost stories that people told each other that just became these urban legends, or if it's what we think of as a doppelganger now, where it's just people that look very similar to each other. Um, so but in the early years when they were first being documented, a lot of it, like I said, it was more for the paranormal, and a lot of it was right before somebody died, they saw their own doppelganger, or and it was a lot of French people. So I don't know, maybe it's just France is, a little bit weird with doppelgangers, but um, it was a lot of like men that saw a doppelganger of their wife with like a newborn child, and the wife had a miscarriage, or the wife gave birth to a stillborn. So it's kind of, those were a lot of the beginning stories. But Emily Segui was kind of that first big documented story. And her story was told, it was word of mouth, but a writer, his name is Robert Dale Owen. He wrote a book called Footfalls on the Boundary of Another World, and that was in 1860s. And I think it was published in 1860. but he told Emily Sagi's story about her kind of phenomenon on her having a doppelganger. So like I said, she was a teacher. She held, it was like 16 different teaching positions within like 18, 19 years. And but nobody could understand why she was never held as a teacher at schools. And then they kind of came to realize it was because of her doppelganger. People just got freaked out because they saw her doppelganger when she was around. She never noticed it and kind of went around along with her day, but never really realized it. But it was other people that saw her like twin basically just imitating what she was doing and kind of like mocking what she was doing. So in 1845, she was a teacher at an all girls school, and she was well liked by the staff. But they had a lot of several different episodes of the students or staff would see her doppelganger while she was like writing on the board. A class of like 12 would see a doppelganger imitating her writing on the board, but wouldn't have chalk. They wouldn't have anything, or just kind of mimicking what she was doing.
Wait, so was it like a mirage? Like,
Well, and that's what, so like
they're
it
seeing
doesn't really
two
fit
different,
into
like
it,
two
but
different people?
from what I read, it kind of sounds like it looked like a full blown human being. So it wasn't like a mist or a mirage or like a ghostly figure kind of thing. It was more of like an actual double human.
But they were seeing it like the same time?
Yeah. So that it was like always when her back was turned. So it's like it was like the doppelganger would be behind her, so she would never see it, but everybody else would see it because she doesn't have eyes in the back of her head. And so the most notable time that people kind of realized what it was and brought it really to her attention, she was there was a like the whole school, which was like 42 girls, so it wasn't a ton of kids, but 42 girls were in class learning how to sew, and their teacher left the classroom, and everybody was able to see Emily out in the gardens, and she was just tending to the gardens outside, but they could see through the window watching her tend to the gardens. When the teacher left, Emily came into the classroom and just sat down at the teacher's desk and just didn't say anything, didn't do anything. Nobody thought anything of it until a girl looked out the window and said, "Oh, she's still outside. How is she here if she's still outside?" And so they kind of got all worried. Well, one girl or two girls, it kind of depends on who you're hearing the story from, but at least one or two girls decided they'd be brave enough to go up and try to touch her. And when they went up to touch her, they weren't able to physically touch her. So in one story, I read that there was like an invisible barrier that wouldn't allow them. It was hindering them from actually physically touching her. In another story, I heard that the girl, her hand just like kind of went through Emily, and it felt like cobwebs kind of thing. So it's a little urban legendy on that, on what actually happened with that, but it's kind of a really creepy situation. And so um they brought it to her attention, and she's like, I never really realized that this was going on. And kind of that was the last school that she kind of worked at, and they just lived with it and realized that she had a doppelganger, eerie, ghostly twin that never spoke, never really was able to be in contact, never caused any trouble. But that was the case of Emily Sagi. And so then there's another story of John Doan, I think is how you say his name. He published a biography in 1675. So this goes back further from Emily, but he claimed to be visited by his wife's doppelganger and newborn child. And he was really excited about it. He was in Paris at the time, but he came to find out that why he saw him, the moment he saw his wife with this newborn child, his wife was actually giving birth to a stillborn child. And so it was kind of like at the same moment that's was happening. So there's been theories on what are doppelgangers really. So what are they really? Are they kind of like are they like are like people trying to be in two places at one time. And that was kind of a theory with Emily Segui, that she wanted to be doing more than what she could as a one single person and wishing to be in more than one place at one time. So is it us like projecting, or that the person projecting their like soul or their, you know, spirit kind of out to be able to do two things at one time? Is it, you know, a projection of our like aura, like somebody's aura on that? Is it our soul or our spirit kind of like leaving our body that does this?
Like
Or
astral traveling.
yes, and so that was my next thing, an astral body, like an out of body experience kind of a situation. Or is it like a mass hallucination? Or you know, for me, what I think, you know, Matt and I always like to show Fringe, and this is when I brought this up. He's like, "You're getting way too into Fringe with me." So, but that was something too, where is this like a parallel universe where our universes are colliding and we're seeing that double in that moment, because the universes are at the exact same moment at the exact same time.
That's what I was going to say, like maybe a tear in the universe, especially like at that school, since it seems to be like focused at that school.
And so, and that's what, you know, and Paris, like everything kind of leads back to Paris. So I'm kind of what's going on in Paris. But Matt has had an out of body experience when he was hit by a car in France. He remembers watching the doctors operate on him in the operating room and like seeing himself over his body.
Well, and you know who else has been to Paris and now has a doppelganger? Is me.
Yes. And you've been to Paris.
I've been to Paris. And I think that was before she got famous, so.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think you're right. So that's where like it's kind of interesting, you know, and with Emily Segui, they like
don't go to Paris.
But with her, they said like when they were able, the students or staff, when they were able to see her doppelganger, she seemed more worn out and lethargic. But then as soon as the doppelganger left, she seemed more energized and back to her normal self. So is it like a spirit that's kind of like taking your energy a little bit, you know? So that's,
or is it extraterrestrial?
Well,
maybe, right. And so is it right? Is it alien projecting?
Have you guys ever heard of Dolores Cannon? Do you know who she is?
I've heard of her, but I don't.
She wrote a lot of books, and one of her,
yeah.
she really came on the scene like in the 90s or something. Of course, it was way before YouTube or anything like that. But she wrote a book because she channeled Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Oh, the the person who predicted all the.
She claims, of course, she would, you know, could access the what's those records, you know, the.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. She claims that there are people, millions of people on Earth, and they're called fillers, and they just kind of fill in. And so, you know, if you go in a crowd, a lot of those people aren't really real people; they're just fill-in people. And so, that could be that too.
Oh.
Well, and that's something too that I just saw it like on TikTok, and I didn't think anything of it, and I just like kept scrolling. But it was one of those things where like a story on like somebody, whatever they were posting, that their husband was watching the camera, like they have cameras throughout their house, and similar to what we do. And he was at work and he saw his wife and his son in his son's bedroom sitting up in bed. And so he called and like, what is in the middle of the night? Why are you both up sleeping? And she's like, what are you talking about? We're in our room sleeping in our bed, in the parents' bed. And so there's a like in, you know, today's recent history of like a kind of like a doppelganger experience. So then too, is it like all part of the matrix? You know, you hear people talk about the theories of what we all live in a matrix, there's glitches in the matrix. So is that what it is? You know, like is that something that
it's all
it
simulation.
really kind of boils down to? But so theories that are there, you know, it's like again an urban tale. So, you know, like you say Bloody Mary 3 times in a mirror, she's supposed to appear and murder you. So it says this: if you see your own doppelganger in real life, it's supposed to be a bad omen of death. Like you're supposed to die. So
I have seen my own doppelganger.
Okay, well,
But
so
it was a long, long time ago. So
yeah, and so
it
like,
probably
did
was.
you have a near-death experience afterwards then?
I probably was 19 or 20 at the time, and I'm standing there, and this guy who was probably my age now, and his son, which was 19 or 20 then, you know what I mean, we were the same age, came up. I was working in a restaurant, and I waited on them, and it was very strange because I'm looking at him. I could tell he's looking at me like, what? And the father is looking at both of us like, that's weird. But we didn't say anything about, we just did our business, and they went and ate.
Yeah.
And it was, I probably told you when I got home, or if I knew you then, I don't remember. But like, it was the weirdest thing because, I mean, he looked identical to me. And I kept looking at him like, am I seeing this right? Like, something's not right. But anyways.
Well, Dad, it was the 70s. Everybody had the same hair and looked exactly the same. I do have the picture of you from that time.
I have now.
Yeah. I mean, the theory too is that like a true doppelganger is supposed to be identical.
It's your mirror image.
Yourself, or like it's like mannerisms, every facial feature, marks on your body are supposed to be like to the T identical.
This guy was identical to me. Yeah. I mean, talked to him for a few minutes, but I didn't ask him if he had any scars or anything.
Right. And so that's what, and so I have like, so Queen Elizabeth I supposedly saw her own doppelganger, and then she died, like she saw it right before her death, and then she died like a few months later, kind of thing, or shortly after seeing her doppelganger. But there's also like stories on, like we see doppelgangers, especially in fiction and TV, but like the book, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That is, to me, I don't see it as a doppelganger thing because it's the same person. But the same as Fight Club. That was another book that was brought up.
Fight Club?
Fight Club, yeah, because it's the same. I forget what their characters are, but
I thought it was just like a mental.
I only know if it's Edward Norton and Brad Pitt in the movie. I can't remember, but they're the same person. It's just like he's got like a
It's a personality disorder.
Personality disorder. Yes, thank you. And so that's kind of the same as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's the same person, but he's got a personality disorder. But that is one of the theories too, is that that's where you're seeing this evil twin kind of thing, and you see that in TV and movies all the time, where somebody has this evil twin that they never knew about, or whatever. But so those are some other cases on that too. But there's even, I didn't know this in my research for this, I found too that even Helen of Troy is supposedly a doppelganger. In the Egyptian word was, I think, Ka is how it's Ka. But supposedly Paris, the Prince of Troy, saw Helen's doppelganger, and she led him to bring peace to the war for the the Trojans, with the Trojan horse.
I thought it was going to be like, that's the reason the war started, is because they were in love with two different women that looked exactly the same.
Well, you ever see the lady in Moscow that looks like you? Turn your head and run.
Yeah, don't talk to her.
Right.
Don't talk to her.
I've never seen her.
Yeah, so I mean, we've hit with like, there's things that are throughout history we're bringing up, and I did see something too where like Abraham Lincoln even had a doppelganger. I didn't really get into that one too much, but that is something too. But there's another, like, just a coincidental, this is off topic a little bit, but JFK and Abraham Lincoln, there's so many coincidences and like similarities. That's a whole other thing that it's kind of similar, but a little off topic. But supposedly Abraham Lincoln had a doppelganger too.
Do you think everybody has a doppelganger? But so you just don't know.
Google says, according to Google, scientists speculate that statistically, every single person on Earth has at least 6 people that is their doppelganger.
I've heard 5, but yeah.
There's 7 people in the world that look identical, that are unrelated. So they're not twins, identical or fraternal. They're unrelated, no DNA's shared, identical twins. And so they're like, in more like the more technical term, I guess, is like a
that could happen.
twin stranger, which they have a twin stranger website, but I don't really want to go into that. But you can like go in, like I think it's like a paid for service, but you can to find your twin, your doppelganger kind of thing. But I don't know how legit it is. So, up front, I'm not approving the website. I'm not promoting it, but I did see that as well too. There's a bunch of different kind of websites that you can and even like a Facebook group that you can join to kind of help you find your doppelganger. But that even with social media now too, and with our technology now, so many people, especially TikTok with the younger generations, people are finding their doppelgangers through social media, or they're posting that they're like I saw somewhere too where like some guy found his doppelganger on an airplane. They looked exactly the same, never met each other, never like kind of went through a family history, no shared family, and looked exactly the same. So that's kind of something too. But it's not recent, but like over 100 years ago, 1903, this doppelganger kind of phenomenon changed how prisons kind of took inmates in and what they did, because before they used to take like measurements of all the inmates when they were brought into the jails or to the prisons, and they took a photo, they took measurements of their body size, marked, documented all the birthmarks or any scars that they had, documented how each person moved, like how they moved, when they walked or when they jumped, those kind of things. They took documentation of all of that. But in 1903 at Leavenworth Penitentiary, when inmate was being brought in, I can't remember, I don't know which name is which, but he was being brought in. The prison guard was saying, "You've already been here. You've been here before." And he's like, "No, I've never been here before. This is my first time being arrested, being put into jail or into prison." And he's like, "No, like, here's your picture, here's your file. You've been here before." And the inmate was like, "No, I've never been here before." And the guy's like, "Look, your name is right here." So this is the case of Will West and William West, who are completely different strangers but look identical. And it was because of them that fingerprinting began to be a new thing to be used in the prison system, so that they could tell who each person was. So I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see these pictures, because you can tell the difference if you look at them, but they look pretty similar to each other. So let me share my screen real quick.
And they even had the same name. I mean, like
So,
One
and they
was
have
Will and one was
the
William.
same name. So this is, and I don't know who is who on this one. I don't know if you can get into it, but
Yeah, that's totally
one
weird.
is William West, one is Will West, and then you can see the different fingerprint marks too. That they're different people, but if you look at them, if you sit and look at them, you can find the differences, but they look almost identical.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
They look completely identical. The only thing is like the lighting is a little different, but that could be
right.
the case.
And that's what, yeah. So, and that's what, like, one looks like they have a little bit darker skin, like the chin shape is a little bit different, but I mean, if you were just glancing at them, I would think that they were the exact same person, especially if they have a pretty similar name on that one. So that was it. But in the prison system, again, in more recent years, this is in 2017, there was a Kansas inmate who was freed after he was in prison for 17 years. He was free because his attorney found his doppelganger, who was actually the guilty person.
Wow.
So here you have Ricky Amos, who was, I believe he was the one that was the guilty party. He's on the left. Rick Jones is the one that was on the right, who was innocent, and he kept telling everybody he was innocent. He'd never done it. And or he was like, he had an alibi, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until they found his doppelganger and they realized that it wasn't him. So you have,
Also, I
again,
can kind of tell the difference.
yeah, this one you can see the difference a little bit, but this is like 2017, so that's 5 years ago. It wasn't, this happened, I think he was arrested in 1999. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. So I think that's something to. Whoops, I don't know if my phone just went dark, but so you have in in the prison system where doppelgangers have caused issues with that. So, but I mean, we're always kind of seen too, and I think again, it's kind of goes with social media. You see people who are lookalikes. So Cassie and Meghan Trainor is one of them, but here you have Margot Robbie and Jamie Presley, and they look very similar.
I have seen those on the internet where like John Travolta, they show like somebody in history that looks exactly like him. And
so Margot Robbie is on the left, Jamie Presley is on the right. So you have her. This one, I always feel like these two are like so close to identical. Bryce Dallas Howard and then Jessica.
Chastain.
I don't know how to say her last name.
Chastain.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bryce Dallas Howard on the right, and then Jessica Chastain is on the left. So to me, I always thought those two were so similar.
They they get that a lot. Like Jessica Chastain, like when she's out in public, they say that like she says to people like, "No, I'm not Bryce Dallas Howard," like all the time.
Right. Yeah. So can you guys see this one too?
Yeah.
So Brittany Murphy, and then do you know her name?
Oh, Lily Rabe.
Yeah. So these two, obviously Brittany Murphy is no longer with us, but Lily, what is her name? Lily
Rabe.
Rabe. Okay. I didn't write it down. So, she is she's like kind of like almost at fame right now. She's pretty famous. She's in, I don't know what the show is.
Riverdale.
So the Jughead stuff. So, but yeah, they look similar, but
sorry, I have to keep getting up, but I think Ida's jealous that she's not in here.
Ida the dog. So you should explain that.
Oh, yes, Ida is the dog.
She wants in, she wants out, and then she's got a bone she's chewing on the wood floor, making all kinds of noise, and
yeah,
anything she can do to get attention.
No, but I know, like, I didn't put pictures. Those are the only pictures that I had to kind of share. But I know, like, Daniel Radcliffe and
Elijah Wood.
No, I can't think. Elijah Wood. Yeah, so those two have always been confused for each other. And then Ed Sheridan and Rupert Grint are always confused for each other. But then Matt Bomer and Henry Cavill.
Cavill.
I don't know. Yeah, you're better at these celebrity names than me. But and then there's another one, Zoe Deschanel, and then Katy Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say her last name right?
Yep.
So, yeah. So those ones, I mean,
Salma Hayek and Penelope Cruz.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's like we have all these that are like, most of the people are still alive. That they're basically kind of like, they look very similar to each other. They get confused for each other. So are they considered a doppelganger, or are they considered just a lookalike? You know, I don't know, but I definitely think, some people look more like each other. I know with like Margot Robbie and Jamie Presley, to me that wasn't a very good picture of them, but I've seen it where they look identical to each other too. So
there's another girl, I don't know her name, but she's on the new Netflix show Sex Education. And she looks so much like Margot Robbie. When the show first started, people were like, why is Margot Robbie on this random high school TV show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's kind of crazy, too. But then there's also, like, and I didn't get into it, but, I mean, if you Google doppelgangers, it brings up a lot of celebrities with, like, these historical doppelgangers.
Right.
And, like, I know Nicolas Cage is, like, one of them. Leonardo DiCaprio has one of them. And
Keanu.
So it's, like,
Keanu Reeves.
Yes. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves has it's like from like the 18th century. Like it's like this painting where like people are like, why is Keanu in this like ancient painting?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So and that's where like I don't know. So are we just being more aware of it now because of like these lookalikes, because we have the internet and
that's what I was thinking.
Social media. Right. And so, like it's kind of, and with social media, I don't know what the influencer's name is, but there was one that looked identical to Ariana Grande. You know who I'm talking about, Kathy?
I do. I don't know her name though, but I think she purposefully did that though. Like it wasn't like an accident. I think she like purposefully did that. Like she made herself look like that.
Yeah. And that's it. I feel like the only reason I know about it is like it was like a negative kind of thing. So, but I mean, you're seeing people that look like I know on TikTok too. I see somebody that like looks identical to Candace Cameron Burr, the DJ Tanner from Full House.
Yeah.
And
are you sure it's not actually her? Because she's on TikTok.
No, and it's not her.
Oh, okay.
It's not her. So it's someone.
She's on TikTok, I know.
So, but I know, I remember when How I Met Your Mother was on. It was like a running joke through the whole series of like, I found my doppelganger.
Yeah.
But I know too, Matt and I've had an experience right after Grandma passed away. We had went to New York for one of our anniversaries, and we went there for vacation. And when we were getting off of the subway train, we both saw somebody that looked exactly like Grandma, and we both stopped and did a double take. And we kind of like looked at each other like, did you just see the same person that I saw?
Yeah.
It was kind of a weird situation. I'm like,
I was going to ask that a while ago when you were talking about like after deaths, they see people, because that happened to my great grandma.
Mm-hmm.
When my grandfather died, it's probably like maybe a week later. Her and I were coming out of a restaurant. I was only like 12. We were coming out of a restaurant, and across the street, there's Grandpa walking down the street. I mean, it was
crazy.
Yeah, it's like, and she said, "Oh my gosh,"
Right. And that was something too that I read, that like with true doppelgangers, friends and family, like close friends and family, aren't able to tell the difference between the two people. So, and that's kind of like a weird, like, so is it a situation on like, especially because these people pass away and it's so associated with death, is it the spirit of somebody's body that just hasn't gone to the beyond?
Or
is it just
they're not realizing
that you're seeing?
Could be a mirage that you're seeing because it's on your mind because they recently passed.
Right.
Or it could be, a lot of people think you never really die. You just, and on the other side, supposedly there is no time. So if you died at this time in this life, you still went on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's no time. So somehow your vibrations come back for a second.
Right. And that's it. So I don't know. I kind of
maybe it's just you. It could be just you recognizing their soul. Even if it's like in an infant, like you see, your grandfather like as a grown man because that's their soul to you.
Right. Yeah. You guys should look up Dolores Cannon, or maybe we should have a show on her because she did a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of neat. Cassie, you at least have found one of your doppelgangers, but I don't know. It's kind of
5 more to go.
5 more to go.
5 more
Gotta collect them.
5 more for your mother. Jessie, you haven't found yours yet? You're a little behind.
I think
that, I mean, obviously you and me look very similar. And I think that, like, when I look at Meghan Trainor, like, I could see your features or I could see mine. Like, it's, either or. But we do look very, very similar.
And I think so, too. And I know, like, when All About That Bass came out, there was parts of that music video that I'm like, oh, gosh, that looks like my twin.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my friends, Sarah, her sister-in-law has a daughter who she thought I was Meghan Trainor. And she kept asking if I was Meghan Trainor. And they kind of like, no, it's not her. And I kept telling her, I'm like, just wait till you see my sister. Then you'll really think it's Meghan.
I got so many people asking me to dress up for her as Halloween when All About That Bass came out, and I was like, I'm not going to do that.
When Meghan Trainor first came on, the scene, all of our friends were calling us like, you got to see this girl. It's Cass.
Yeah, because she did the Ellen interview.
I had to go to church, and you were on the Ellen show.
Mm-hmm. I was not on the Ellen show.
And
I think it was you.
Meghan Trainor was on the Ellen show.
Not on the Ellen show.
Oh my gosh, that looks just like Cass. I get to church, and I forget what we were doing, but everybody at church was going, I just seen your daughter on Ellen's show. I'm going, no, that's not Cass.
Mommy.
I mean, really, can you really prove it's not you?
But I couldn't believe
I can't. Me and Megan Trainor have never been in the same room at the same time, so I can't prove it.
Yeah, if I was you, especially when you worked at the casino, I'd have
It's like a
played that.
Hannah Montana moment, you know? You get the best of both worlds, right?
Just flip the wig off. She's got her family now. She's good.
So do you guys think that doppelgangers are like this evil presence that, you know, like a bad omen kind of thing?
I don't know that they're evil. I mean, I don't know, because I just think that spirits, I don't know, it's crazy, but I think it's spirits around us.
I don't know.
I don't know that some of them, if
Another
real,
question, I guess,
like,
so too,
like I
is,
say, I think they're mirages.
yeah, one, Matt brought up, you know, like Matt and I talked about this because Matt is with Odin and keeping him in bed tonight. But Matt and I talked about this last night too, that, you know, like the math, just like there's only so many people in the world, we all have to look like each other at some point, because either, you know, like you believe that we all came from Adam and Eve, or we came from evolution, so we're all from
Part of the same bloodline.
Right.
Well,
So are we?
And I think that too, like, but also just like, there's only so many features in the world, you know what I mean? Like, there's only like so many like shapes of eyebrows and the shapes of your face, like, so it's just kind of like, you know, everything, like, there's like a theory that's like, there's always going to be a repeating pattern kind of thing. So that's what I think it is just repeating
that
patterns.
there is a certain type of people. Like,
Right.
when I meet somebody, it's like, oh, that's that type of person. You know what I mean? They look a lot alike.
Right.
You know,
Well,
I
that's
don't know how many there would be, but you know.
And are we just all like an alien? Well, like, are we just like a pet to aliens, that we're just like this cookie cutter like experiment that like we're gonna use this mold for these people and this one for this one and see how it all fleshes out?
Right.
So, you know, I don't know.
I mean, I have a theory, a personal theory, that none of this is real.
It's all a simulation.
And you guys are not real. You're just you're in my imagination.
We're all just part of the Matrix.
I'm not real, you know.
Right.
Oh, Dad, this is not a personal theory. This is a real theory. It's called the simulation theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's, yeah, you're right.
it's just everything's a simulation, and once you die, you wake up.
Right. And that's so like, are we kind of
That's
like
a good way
living
of putting that.
Right, and are we living like
when you wake up.
Star Wars kind of era where like in a galaxy far, far away, we're being, you know, in this VR, you know, we're just a game to some other species or other human-like creatures. I know.
What do you think, that there are people that look like us? Maybe they're the ones from Mars coming to our planet.
I just think, for me personally, I think there's like an unlimited amount of universes, and at moments we collide.
Clyde.
And and I think that's where you get like the true doppelganger thing, where you have this like illusion of somebody that is next to the actual person. But I don't know. And I think for me, it's watching the show Fringe, because it's like so like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that could be real, you know. So, but
Fringe,
you know, like
Fringe, like clothing fringe.
On Netflix.
I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. It used to be. I think it's on Hulu now. But it's an older show. It's got Joshua Jackson, who, you know, I think of as Charlie from the Mighty Ducks. That's like who I will always think.
I was thinking Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
Pacey from Dawson's Creek. But for me, I grew up with him as Charlie on the Mighty Ducks, so he will always be Charlie. But and I don't know any of the other actors and actresses in there, but it's a good show. It ran for like 5-6 seasons, I think. But it's all based on, you know, like alternate universes and alternate realities and time travel, you know, that kind of stuff. Which is another thing that I think we could talk about too in the future. But that was I remember when Matt and I first started like hanging out. We weren't quite dating yet, but like we were hanging out and had interest in each other. And I remember, look, one of the first questions he asked me was like, do you believe in time travel? And I remember thinking, are you an idiot? Like, like this is the, you know, like the crazy person that I'm, you know, like I have a crush on, and then, you know, here we are 20 years later and we're married with a kid. So
But you didn't
I
believe
guess
in
it
time
worked out.
travel back in like early 2000s?
I don't know if I did, you know, I think a lot, like, you, like, no offense to mom and dad, but it's like you get put, like, no, not the, like, you just get put into like, okay, we're living a Christian world and this is what you believe in. So it's like, no offense to you guys, because it's just like we were raised in a church, we were raised to, you know, like, but we were also raised to have our own opinions and to do our research and find our own opinions. So,
That's
but
come
like,
back to bite us several times.
you know, like, it's just one of those things that, like, I don't think at the time, because I was a teenager when I met Matt, I don't think at the time it's like one of those things that I ever really questioned anything beyond Adam and Eve and God and Jesus kind of thing, you know, like that Christianity stuff. So
We had
it's
two
just
very
like,
different upbringings then. Because that was definitely not what
You
I
can have it all.
No,
It doesn't have to be one way or the other.
right. And that's what I'm saying. That's like, for me, it was like, it was like that way or you're crazy. Like, like, no, time travel doesn't exist. But, you know, like now it's like, okay, like, how do I know that it doesn't, you know? And how do I know? Because going back to like with the JFK assassination, there's supposedly a time traveler in one of the pictures that had like a cell phone kind of thing, you know? So that's where, like, I don't know, you know, and your opinions change as you get older kind of thing. But I agree, there's not one way or the other. And just, I don't know. That's where, like, are aliens real? Well, we've kind of had that documented and proven by the government, or admitted at least. But, you know, like, things that, like, why wouldn't you question them if you don't have proof of God beyond the Bible, which is a story written by people the same as any history book? So why believe that over somebody else's theory that has documented evidence from something else either? So.
Okay, we're definitely going to have that part 2 now. I think we're going at about an hour.
We're at 48 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was it for my
whole,
we got way off topic to this, you know.
I mean, not way off topic, because I mean, it's all
But
relative
still
to it's all relative to
together.
doppelgangers. Like, time travel could be your, like, future self coming back to warn you of something. So I don't think it was off.
Well, like in my instant, when they happened to me, I didn't really get a message out of it. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's just one of those.
Now I wish I would have stopped and really talked to him about it, but I can tell you, it wasn't just me thinking it. All three, him, me, and father, were all like, "What's going on?" Just, But we didn't say anything neither. You know what I mean? We didn't like say, "Hey, he looks like you," or anything.
Yeah.
But while they were eating too, they kept looking back. Like, I could tell that they were like, "That guy is you."
Yeah, right. You're having that conversation, yeah.
Right.
Or they were having that conversation, and that's what, like, I don't know, and that's what, you know, like with Matt, it's like, okay, it kind of goes back to, like, he says he has this out of body experience, and do I believe that he had this out of body experience? Do I believe my husband, or do I think that he was, you know, like 5 years old at the time, didn't know what was going on, and kind of confused and drugged up from anesthesia or, you know, whatever, but he was at the brink of death. He almost died, you know, and he was in major surgery.
I think the fact that he was 5 makes it more credible, because
right, because you wouldn't know what an out of body experience is.
Yeah.
Right. And plus, you know, kids are just, you know.
Did he, like, see the light, see grandma and grandpa, see having...
No, he didn't. None of that stuff. He says, like, he remembers seeing the doctors smoking while they're operating on him.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
I bet it is.
Not in the 1990s. Like, in the 60s.
I would believe it. But, you know, again, nothing against France. And this is like this is a bad thing for, France, but
for entertainment purposes.
I know, your little sign.
For entertainment purposes, but, you know, we're like with Matt, his parents, because he got hit by a car in France and they're American, you know, in France they wanted to, like, amputate his leg, and they wanted to remove one of his eyes, and his parents said no, like, we're not going to do that, and so they had him, like, basically, like, life flighted back to the United States, I don't know if it would be considered like a life flight, but like they had him moved over to U of M. I think it was U of M in Ann Arbor.
Oh wow.
And the Children's Hospital, yeah.
That's a long distance.
Yeah. And but they were able to obviously save his life, save his eye, save his leg.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's and they were able to correct his because his eye got pushed back into his socket. His face was broken, but they were able to do the surgery without any facial scars. And look at him now. Or maybe he just had plastic surgery at a young age. So.
No, because he looks like his parents. I feel like you'd have like some kind of difference.
Cosmetic surgery, I should say, because it really was plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wouldn't have been as good looking as he is now.
You owe it all to the doctor.
I know.
I owe it all to the doctor. But yeah. So that's he's always talked about that, and having that out of body. You hear it all the time with people, especially near like the brink of death or near death experiences where they meet somebody that is already dead, or there was like that little kid that it was like
he went to heaven for 5 minutes.
Yeah, right, yeah, and but it's like you have all these people that are saying that it's a true story. So are we willing to believe that and kind of take that? Or
I do too.
I remember when my mom, you guys were young, but I think she was like 55, and she had a heart attack and died.
Your mom?
But she didn't have it in the hospital.
In the hospital.
Right, and she was visiting with Aunt Rose.
How long was she dead for? For I want to say 17 minutes. I could be off on that.
It was code blue.
But I was like...
For 17 minutes? That's a long time.
Did you see your mother? Did you? She was like, no. And I'm like, well, dang it.
Yeah, right. Right.
Wow, I did not know that about... I knew Grandma and Grandpa both had heart attacks. I didn't realize that Grandma was dead for 17 minutes.
My Aunt Rose was in the hospital dying of cancer.
Yeah.
And my mom was there at the hospital visiting her when that happened. And they said she would have never lived other than the fact that she happened to be in a hospital at the time. And her brother and her father both died that way. They just fell over.
Oh, I did not know that at all.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that at all. Like, I mean, other than like I knew Grandma Grandma had a heart attack before she died. Like, like long time before she died, but
bypass surgery.
I mean, I knew that. Like, I knew everything about like her having a heart attack and having bypass, but I didn't realize her dad and brother died like instantly from a heart attack.
Yeah,
and then like she died for 17 minutes.
Right.
Like, that's a long time to be dead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, she was, I think, 55, and her brother was 59, and her dad was, she was only like 6 when her dad died, and he was 68 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, 68 when he died.
Right.
Oh, he was like 62. Something like that when she was born.
Right.
Yeah. So, but... anyways, it could be just another 2 dimensions clashing into each other.
Right. Well, and that's something too that like you think of the like alternate universe or parallel universe kind of a situation on that, like going back like with like, and then this is part of Fringe too, where like Joshua Jackson's, spoiler alert, Joshua Jackson's character as a kid dies in one universe but is saved in the other universe. And so he's brought over to our universe from the alternate universe, but never had any memory of it. He never knew that he was. And so he finds out as an adult that he's not really supposed to be in our universe. He's supposed to be in the other universe. And so that's like, did that happen to Matt? Was he supposed to die, or did he die in an alternate parallel universe?
Or did this universe's Matt die and he was brought over?
Right.
Mm.
Right.
I do believe in that. I believe in like parallel universes. I think almost like the butterfly effect, where like one choice, every single choice you make, like there's another universe that makes the opposite choice.
Right.
And so
there's all these different
versions.
All these different universes.
Well, and that's Matt and I had that conversation before too, where in another universe we'd be single parents. I'd be a single parent, or he would, because we've both come close to dying, which is so morbid and unfortunate. But we were saved.
Multiple times.
So, yeah, but it's just kind of crazy to think about. Or, like in another universe, if Matt grew up in Arizona, did we, like in another universe, did we even meet, So it's kind of a crazy situation on that.
So speaking of your life, death, and experience, did you have any, did you see anything?
No, I don't remember anything. I just...
you just went unconscious?
Yeah, I just went unconscious, though.
When she had her hemorrhage.
You didn't see the light, or...
No, I didn't see the light.
No voices talking
but
to you?
on the funny facts of it, I was in the shower, so, I got to... Everybody else saw my light, so... But,
somebody had to clean your life off.
Somebody had a life-changing experience.
Because I, being the weirdo that I am, yelled at Matt that I didn't want to use any towels or anything and get blood all over him. So I was
don't want to clean it up.
Trust me, that bathroom looked like a murder scene. Anyways, let's not talk about that. There is I'm going to have to look this up. There was a guy, let me think if I think this story through. In 1950, this guy's driving down Fifth Avenue or whatever in New York City. 1950, he's driving his car down, and all of a sudden this guy just appeared in front of him, and he hit him and killed him with the car. So they get out, and they're looking at this guy, and he's dressed from 100 years ago. His dress is like that way. And it's old, but it's new looking. Somebody made clothes to look like that now. They weren't worn. They didn't look like they were old. And they found a identification from this guy on a piece of leather with his name. And it had his birth date on it. It was kind of like some kind of identification, but it was on a piece of leather in his pocket. And nobody claimed this guy, and nobody, there was nobody ever said, hey, that's somebody. And it was just really weird how he was dressed and, stuff. Well, they looked back and found 100 years prior to that, a guy by this name. It had his occupation on this piece of leather. Was in the same occupation, and it had something to do with leather, actually. It was something like that. Walked into the woods one day and totally disappeared. Nobody ever found him again.
So he found a
100 years later, all of a sudden, he's standing in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York City and gets hit by a car because he'd never seen a car before. Well, they're putting this all together, but they did all this research on him. There's a thing on the internet. I'll have to look it up.
But there's another.
I definitely think we need to do a podcast about time travel, because I think that is an interesting concept too. That
What time? If you guys could time travel, what time would you go back to?
Oh man, I think I would go to the Renaissance era. I don't know. I've always been fascinated with that era too. That I don't know. Although it would be, I think, a little overwhelming of females, how much you had to dress, how many clothes that you had to put on, or just
corset
in the streets, and it's just a dirty, unsanitary place. So yeah, I don't know.
What about you?
I think I'd go forward. I don't think I'd go back. But I don't know, because there's just like you said, you could pick a time, but there's always something wrong. You could pick Renaissance, but it's gross and unsanitary, or you could pick the 60s and the 70s and be a hippie, but there's racism, and there's females don't have rights, and so there's just constant things that you could
dirty. Those are dirty times.
Yeah, there's always something that wrong with the time.
But I probably would go have a dinner with Janice.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'd be going probably. I've always thought of way back in the Queen Victoria's. It's always fascinated me. So I must have been from another country.
A past life, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're all from another country.
I think the early 1900s.
I think 1800s or something.
I think the early 1900s have been very fascinating because electricity came about, plumbing came about, telephones, radios. That was huge.
That would be a fun time. Yeah, I agree. Like early 1900s, but I also think like I don't know. I feel like almost the 80s. If I was like an adult or like could be this age in like the 80s, or maybe a little bit younger. Yeah, because you have technology, but it's not the technology that we have. You could still like go away without a cell phone, and nobody knows where you are. You don't have to answer the phone. Nobody knows that you're not home. So it's just like having that like kind of a mix of like the good and bad. I don't know. But I personally think too, I mean, I'm old enough to remember 9/11, but I feel like that was like a split in time of like you have before and after, and it's like everything changed after that. So, I don't know. And that's where like I think like the 80s is like everybody was kind of like at this like everything was kind of new with technology, and so everybody was like just living the American dream. Well, I guess not everybody was, but still, because you still have all like the segregations and the racism that hopefully it's gonna go away soon, but probably won't. But it's just I don't know. To me, it's kind of like an interesting time. Like, don't you remember listening to a Walkman? Like that was the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. And like now, like really, that's what you think was great.
Yeah.
But so. But and I kind of had that.
We had the big boom box that you carried around on your shoulder.
Well, don't you remember those little Walkmans that you got for Christmas that one year?
Well, that was in the 90s. That was in the 90s because that was from Home Alone 2. That was the boy talking. Mine was a girl talk because of course girls couldn't have the same exact thing as a boy. It had to be pink and called girly something. But yeah. But I mean that's what like those were kind of cool, but I agree with you, Cassie, though. I wouldn't mind going to the future. It would be neat to see, what happened in the future.
Yeah.
Or maybe we could go to a galaxy far, far away.
Another 10 years, we can say, there are aliens. Yes, there are.
We are them.
I'll go to a galaxy far, far away. As long as Adam Driver's there, I'll do that.
No, I have no interest in going off this planet. I'm staying right here.
Okay, guys, looks like we need to wrap this up.
We hope you guys enjoyed.
Everybody have a good evening. Don't forget that you're up next.
You can like and subscribe here on YouTube, or you can listen to on Podbean, and now we are officially on Apple Music, so you can listen to us on podcasts there or Podbean.
Love you all. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.